Welcome to the Everyday Carry Options podcast, making everyday carry attainable for the everyday citizen. Hi, my name is Matt Williams from Foundation Defense. Today I have with me my co-host, Alex. Say hi, Alex. You're on mute still.
Hi, Alex. I'm on mute still. Alex from Modern Gunslinger.
Yes.
You're introducing yourself. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah. Hey, Alex, you had you did a class for some teachers out on the other side of the state. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, how that went?
Yeah. So we came together with a couple other people, Grass Lake Sportsman's Club and Phoenix Ammunition, and a few other local sponsors, Food Revolution from Grass Lake. All came together to put together a free teachers class over, well, it's been about 2 weeks now since we put the class together. It went really, really well. We had a lot of people show up. We ended up on the news. That was kind of cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it was really neat. The interview went really well. I enjoyed it. It was a nice little short piece about it. It went great. It was cold. That was about the only bad part. It was very cold. We ended up not doing a whole lot of outside shooting and did a lot of inside gun handling instead of my normal 3-hour chunk of range time that I normally do. But it went pretty well. We had a lot of good time, and it was very good. I enjoyed it. I think everybody who was there enjoyed it. So it went well.
Awesome. Well, today we're talking about the things we carry on our bodies, everything, all the tools we carry, and how the purpose behind all those tools should be. Everything should be purpose-driven. All the tools we carry should be purpose-driven. So, what does that mean to you, Alex? I mean, where do you start with that?
Well, I started, the reason why I wanted to do this topic on the show was I recently got a new job. And to apologize to all of our viewers, that has really slowed our podcast down because I've been super busy. I've been back and forth from Chicago a few times and been extremely time consuming with the new job. But it's starting to slow down a little bit now, so I can get back to this. And what happened during the new job is I had to carry an entirely different gear set than what I normally carried because I'm carrying as a armed security personnel. So now I have to have specific types of holsters and my gear completely changed. So that was an extremely eye-opening experience for me, learning a new gear set because I had a different role. So that's kind of where this stemmed from a little bit.
So you went from being a regular armed private citizen to somebody who is now kind of in the public face carrying a gun openly?
Yeah, so most of the time I carry open carry now, and our requirement for our work is a level 2 and up for a holster. So,
what does that mean to everybody?
I was just trying to think about that. Level 1s are a single retention, so like a Serpa holster with a push button. And actually, we can carry level 1s and up. I just was trying to figure out. We're confused about some of the levels right now because we have an old school sheriff guy that works for us that still has some of the old school retention levels that are there. But so level 1 is a Serpa where you push a button to release the firearm. A level 2 is like a push button and then a hood. And then a level 3 is like a push button, a hood with a rear cant to unpull the gun. I believe I've got to look a little bit more into like exactly what level 3 retention is because we don't really carry level 3s. So I'm not going to act like I'm the authority on retention holsters right now at all. I'm not. I just know I have to have some form of permanent retention, so a push button or something like that. So that changed my opinion of carrying a lot.
Now, do you find that when you're not on the job, like when you're not on the clock, are you still carrying openly, or what do you? I mean, does that change for you all the time, or?
Well, I kind of look at it like this. If I'm in uniform, I just carry openly because usually I'm going to work or I'm coming home from work. So I carry open a lot now, which I did not before. And that in itself has been a very eye-opening experience that I'd love to talk about maybe today, maybe another show. But I was never an open carrier at all. Not that I thought it was a bad thing. I just didn't. It wasn't good for me, I guess. So now that I'm open carrying a lot, I've learned a lot of cool things that I would not have thought. A lot about observation, I think, is a good way to put it. But Yeah, but no, normal day to day, I still go back to my appendix carry concealed.
Okay. Well, we can have somebody on from Michigan Open Carry to talk with us about that, and you can you can bring all that. That'd be great. As a matter of fact, my father-in-law is with Michigan Open Carry, and he's one of the guys that does it right. So I'd like to have him on. He's good dude. He's
that'd be good.
He's very knowledgeable. Good guy. So where do we kind of go from here? Something that, yeah, go ahead.
You got it.
No.
Okay. So why I wanted to address this is that during this time switch of me going to a different gear set, I learned a lot about decision-making process behind choosing your gear. And what I want to encourage is a few rules, or not rules, but a few ideas to get you guys to start thinking about your own gear carry. And one of the things that I want to put out there is, just because someone says this is the end all does not mean it fits right for you.
Right.
And I've heard it all too often. You hear it all the time. Oh, you have to have this holster because this is the best holster. Okay.
Yeah, right.
We are independent humans that have bodies that are different. None of us are alike. None of us carry the same. None of us do anything the same. And we have to remember that when we're choosing our gear. Each piece is going to be individually different. I may love blank holster, and you may put it on and be like, I hate this thing. But because Alex from EDC Podcast says it's the best holster ever, I'm going to carry it anyway.
Right.
Let's not do that, you know? So
there's a lot of that. I have friends that own holster companies that, man, I know they make great stuff, but it just doesn't work for me. I still recommend them, but for my body type or the way they make, A, B, C, X, Y, Z does not work for me. So yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I had an experience with a holster a couple of years ago. I wanted forever, and I'm not going to pick on a particular holster company. I'm going to talk about Raven because I love Raven. I have lots of their gear. But I really wanted an Edline. Is it Edline? I never say that.
Edline?
Right. Edline.
I think
I really wanted an Edline holster really bad. I finally saved up and I bought one. I hated it. Like it did not fit my body style. It was uncomfortable. I ended up giving it to somebody. I was like, I don't want this. I carried it for like 3 weeks and was like, nope, I couldn't do it. And I know plenty of people out there that absolutely love that holster.
Right.
And it just did not fit for me. So I guess kind of where we want to talk about this is when we're deciding to pick this gear out, you really have to make an effort to pick and choose and carry what works best for your purpose, what you're doing in your situation.
So here's something interesting. Alex and I, we briefly talked about, hey, let's talk about this topic. And it's funny because we're coming at this at 2. We didn't make sure this was jiving. So he has this idea and I have this completely other idea of how this show is going to go. So this is kind of funny. So
go for it.
Well, here's where my mind was with this. Purpose drives tools. So for me, it's you wouldn't wear a tuxedo to a 26-mile marathon, right? So it's being prepared for what your job is. Like if you frame houses, you don't show up with a tack hammer. You don't show up with a finishing hammer, right? So the way I was approaching this topic was are you carrying items because you want to be prepared for everything? Are you being prepared for what is possible, or are you being prepared for what is probable? Because those two things are they're worlds apart. If you're I'm sitting here in my front dining room. ISIS could come kick through the front door right now. And I mean, is that a possibility? Sure is. But it's more probable that the UPS man is going to ring the doorbell because I ordered something I forgot about. You know what? Because I was drinking scotch at 1 o'clock in the morning. So I think that this will be a fun show. I think we can do this your way, and then another time we'll do it my way. But yeah.
So the follow-up to the show will be next week, and it will be Matt's way.
Right. I don't know about that, but But yeah, let's go ahead and take it away here. I like the way you're, I like the direction you're taking it. So let's do that.
So I'll put you guys through a little bit of what happened to me with a piece of my gear. So I had to swap to a retention holster, and when I got the job, it was kind of a rush. So I went right out. Yeah, Matt's winking because he knows I was having like a frantic 2 weeks of my life. When I got the job, I had to get a couple pieces of gear like right away. So I was calling some friends, trying to gather some gear up, and I ended up going and buying a retention holster from the local Dunham's store. I think it was Dunham's, and I picked up just a Serpa holster, which for a very long time I have been very anti-Serpa, and with experiencing one, I still am. I really don't care for them at all. I don't like the finger placement. I've seen a few things that while carrying it that just caused me to go, I don't care how much training you're going to get. That's not a good holster to carry in. So that was sort of my perspective on that, but that's kind of aside the point. So anyway, I put this on my 4 or 5 o'clock position on my belt, and I was carrying it. Now, primarily my job consists of me driving a car for about 8 hours a day. Right now it does, at least. So I found that position with that holster, with a locking holster under my seatbelt, made it pretty much impossible to get to my gun while seated in my car. So I had to come up with something to change that, because that's not acceptable for me. I spend 8 hours in the car. I've got to be able to get to that gun. I spend it as a person who's supposed to be carrying a gun, so chances of something happening to me involving a firearm or deadly force situation has increased than normal. So I had to have some form of access. So I couldn't find a outside the waistband level 3 or level 2, level 1 retention holster that you could carry. They don't exist as far as I know. And the paddle on the back of a Serpa holster really hurts if you stick it in your groin. So yeah, it was not. I tried. I really did. But it just wasn't, it wasn't jiving very well for me. So I decided to move to a drop leg holster. And I did a little research and found a company that makes drop leg holsters with a thumb trigger that releases the firearm instead of your finger, your pointer finger, your trigger finger releasing it, out of Israel, that made holsters for the I don't know if it was their special police force or something, but that was where the design originally came from. And so I bought one of those thinking, hey, that's got to be pretty good. I would assume so. And it was. It actually worked out pretty well. I know a lot of people don't really care for drop leg, but once again, the idea that I'm trying to come and get across is that there's a very distinct purpose to why I chose to go to a drop leg. There's a reason. It's not just that I'm trying to look tack cool, but that allowed me to have access to my firearm while sitting in a car. I had to cant the holster a little bit forward, so it raised it above the console of my vehicle a little bit, but it allowed me to gain access to that firearm while sitting in my seat. So what I want you guys to think about for that example is, what are you doing to make your carry more along the lines of what you do? So I'm not saying that very well. That didn't come out like I want. So let's put it this way. If you spend 90% of your time as a runner, if you're a professional runner and you want to carry, you're probably not going to carry with a drop leg holster.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. It's probably not going to be the rate you're going to go. You may consider something like a belly band and a smaller firearm. I know a couple of runners who carry like that. So that's sort of what I'm wanting to encourage, is you to actually think about your job, your process, and then try to fit and match gear that you like, because if you don't like it, you're not going to use it. Plain and simple. To what you're doing in your lifestyle. So your lifestyle is going to have to kind of fit and drive the gear that you're choosing to decide to pick. You still have to pick quality gear. And that's something that we got to discuss about quality gear a little bit, because there's a lot of really crappy gear out there. So I don't know if that's this show, but probably another show at some point.
I think that show could have no end if we did a crappy gear show.
Oh my gosh.
I think you bring up a good point. I think also people should be, well, maybe they don't have to be, but I think people should maybe be open to realizing that good gear, though it's good, might need to be modified to a degree, right? Or
yep.
Like as you were talking about the Eidolon or whatever the holster, everybody loves it, but it doesn't work for you. For me, there are a lot of things that just don't work. I'm southpaw, I'm left-handed. There are a lot of things I would love to buy, use, carry, have, whatever, but I'm wrong-handed and there's nothing I can do about it. I can learn to do anything right-handed, but it's, do I want to go back on the hundreds or thousands of hours of naturally doing things the way I have always done, just so I can have this cool tool, you know? Yeah. So, yeah.
And modification, I think you brought up a good point. Modification is one of those things I think everybody gets a little bit scared of doing. And in my opinion, I modify all my stuff in one way or another. If it doesn't work for me, I make it work for me. As long as it doesn't damage the integrity of the product, then I will do whatever it takes to make that thing more effective. And I got a perfect example of this. So this is one of my older holsters. I don't know if you can see this. This is a light bearing holster. I actually need to put a new clip on it. Do you recognize the design at all?
Yes, I do.
Did that one? It's a great holster. I love it. I wish he was still making holsters. I'd buy 5 more. But as you can see right here, that's not supposed to be knocked out right there. I cut that out to fit my RMR on my gun. And I knew that cut was not going to damage the integrity of that holster, but I wanted to have this be able to carry my RMR. So, you know, modifying and making equipment work for you is important as long as you're not damaging the integrity of the equipment.
I did the same thing with the G-code holster. I was like, oh, this stupid RMR doesn't fit. Where's my Dremel tool? And yep. The key about that is if you're going to modify anything, you do it a little bit at a time. And you check often. Yes. You check often, always and often, because you can remove a little at a time, but once you go too far, you're not putting any of it back on. So yeah, I did the same thing. I think, but a lot of times I noticed over the years it's, oh my gosh, my pocket knife or my flashlight or my gun, it's got a scratch or a mar. Like, oh my God, it's gonna happen. You carry it. I mean, it's like anything else that you know goes around with you during your moving through space in life. You're gonna bang and bump into things. You know,
absolutely.
It's just going to happen. You have to accept that. Nobody's saying that you should take your pocket knife, your gun, and slide it across the asphalt or the cement. But my goodness, things are going to get scratched and dinged and marred. It's just how it is. So making things a little bit better for yourself by modifying them slightly, you just realize the resale value on that is gone. Yeah. That's all there is to it. And if it's a tool that you're going to use, just look at it as it's a tool. It's not an investment as far as, well, someday I might want to sell this. No, this is a tool I might use to save my life or the lives of someone else or whatever. Could be anything.
I do want to encourage now here in the quotations of all the legal portion. If you were going to modify a firearm, I'd suggest you use a licensed armed gunsmith to do so, especially when you're talking about the firing parameters of a firearm. That's important.
We're talking about basic. We're talking about basic things like undercutting your trigger guard, not taking a hacksaw and like shortening your barrel. Yeah. We're not talking about anything like that. Don't do that. We're not talking about taking your gun from semi-automatic. I'm sorry, full semi-automatic, which I still don't know what that is. Ooh. But from semi-automatic to automatic, we're not talking about anything like that. We're talking about staying completely within the letter of the law. All right.
Realm of possibilities.
Right.
But and I kind of wanted to get in this direction of the thought behind what you're doing. I want you guys to think out your objective. You spend the majority of your time sitting at a desk every day. What is the best method for you to carry? you may not like appendix carry because you're sitting down all day long, then that 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, whatever, may be a better option. But the thought behind what you're doing is what I'm trying to get after you guys. And it was very eye-opening for me having all this gear changing, because I changed everything. I changed my holsters, I changed my belt, I changed my flashlight, I changed everything. I carry an 1800 lumen spotlight now. And yeah.
But it makes sense. I mean, it makes sense, you know, given what the purpose is, what the job is. You know, you need that tool. It makes sense, you know.
And for everybody, that's not going to be the case. You know, not everybody's going to be carrying, you know, a giant 1800 lumen flashlight on them. So that may not be the ideal, but that's something that I want you guys to be to think about. You know, what is it that you're doing, and what gear do you need to do that? I think there are a baseline of that minimalist gear. You need a good gun, good belt, and a good holster, but then everything else needs to be built out from your perspective, not because somebody said this is what you should do, but your perspective.
Well, yeah, I think part of that, though, is being honest with yourself about what it is you actually need and removing your ego from the situation. Because so often it's like, I want to carry a full-size 1911 double stack. I have no idea. It doesn't matter. But if you have to be able to function throughout your daily life, carrying these things, and do it comfortably. I mean, to a degree of comfort. I mean, carrying a gun is never truly very comfortable. So, I mean, getting past that. But I don't walk around my house with a full-size Glock 17 or a 1911. I mean, I when I'm not carrying it, like, this is my gun for when I'm not carrying a gun. I mean, other than where where it's illegal and where I'll get fired. But then I don't carry a gun because, you know, I need to keep my job and I can't catch a felony and, you know, stuff like that.
Right? Like work.
Well, you know, paying bills is a necessary evil, I suppose.
Yeah.
But, I think it's a big deal for people because, like, they want to have that Instagram picture, photo, you know, pocket dump of, you know, all this glorious crap that they have. But I don't understand. You know, you got a beard comb and you got a brass knuckle that you're never going to punch somebody with, and, you know, I mean, just a bunch of silly things that don't seem to add up. But by God, they don't have room for a tourniquet.
Right.
Which I've never understood.
I mean, a SWAT tee is so small you can put it in your back pocket and not even know it's there.
Right. Well, I carry, what is this thing? Frog.pro. It's an SFD responder. I can't remember what Safer, Faster Defense Responder.
Ankle holsters.
Yeah, it's super comfortable. I mean, I work in a body shop at General Motors. It's hot. It's already hot. I'm already uncomfortable.
Right.
But I wear this every day around my ankle, and sometimes I forget that, like, oh shoot, did I leave that at home? And I just reach down and check, and hey, it's there. But it's easy to carry something like that. Always have it. But I'm always surprised how some people are so willing to go and spend $500, $800, $1,000, $1,500 on a gun, but they won't pay $150 to $300 for a class, and they won't spend $30 for a tourniquet, or a couple hundred, maybe even $500, whatever it is, for a 2-a-day medical class. I mean, I think you can get into a Dark Angel class for, what is it, like $450 per currently, $400, $450?
Yeah.
And then American Red Cross classes are not expensive either. But man, that doesn't make for a really good Instagram photo, so I don't know what to tell you.
No, it doesn't. You know, life-saving stuff isn't good Instagram photos. You know, and I say it in my CPL class, and I always get people, it stuns them, is I tell people, if you are willing to play God and take lives with a gun, you need to be able to be willing to play God and save lives with a med kit. And every time I say that, everybody's like, oh, you know.
Yeah, right, because they've never thought about that. You know, this is so new to people. Once they get past the bravado and the tough guy talk, you know, the whole I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6 lazy thought process of just putrid garbage. You know, that's somebody who's never thought about the consequences of what happens when they use force. So
deadly force. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's, you know, I think that's something that a lot of people don't really think about. Even a lot of people in my CPL classes get that way, where they're like, you know, we start talking about the what happens after a good shoot, and you start labeling off, you know, you're probably going to get sued, you're probably going to go to jail, you're probably, and everybody's just sort of like, they're in the class and it's all quiet, and they're just like, wow, I never really thought that was what would happen. And then not to talk about the things that happen to you on a psychological level, you know, it kind of goes out the window. But
right.
A lot of people after my classes go, I'm going to go get medical training now.
Right.
Good.
Right. Well,
Good.
I've had, in talking about the law aspect of it, I've had people, you know, hey, I'm not really sure if this is for me. Like, whoa. I didn't mean to scare you off, but it's important that you know what your limitations and your abilities are. You have to be aware of the consequences and, you know, what was your part in this play leading up to the action. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll talk about that another time, but
sure.
Sometimes people get really, I don't know if I really want to carry a gun. You know, you have to stop being that person who lets your ego get in the way. You can't flip people off in traffic anymore. You know, you can't like get in an argument over, you know, being bumped into at a concert or whatever. So
yeah. And I put it, you know, you know, Dave Grossman, some men are sheep, some men are wolves, some men are sheepdogs.
Yeah.
You ever heard that thing? Right. I've modified that a little bit for my CPL classes, and I'll say it. I don't know if I've said it in this class before or not, but in my opinion, of the world of CPL people, so inside of concealed carriers, I see that there are three types of concealed carriers. There are sheep who get concealed carry firearms, and they carry, you know, if I know I'm going into that bad neighborhood, I'm going to carry, but they're pretty cautious about it, and they usually don't. Maybe it's in their car. You know what I'm talking about? You know, that kind of person that they're not going to carry all the time. They got it because, you know, maybe their family said that they probably should because they go into a dangerous neighborhood, you know, but it's not really a priority for them. And then I see people who are the wolves of the CPL world. And these are the guys that I best describe as they are hammers looking for nails, where they're very... Your heater just kicked on.
Yes, it did.
They're very bravado driven. Like they may go put themselves in a situation just so they may have the option to use their gun. And then the other guys are the guys like me and you that were sheepdogs. You're never going to know, but we'll be there with a med kit. We'll be there with a firearm. We'll be there to help save innocent lives, if it's with medical or if it's with a gun.
He never would have known, but here we are in public right now. But I get the sentiment. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I have recently come to the conclusion that I'm really sorry. If you're not carrying a gun and you're not able to defend yourself, and there's an avenue for me to get myself and who I'm with out of there, I'm sorry, you're on your own.
I'm with you on that one.
You know, it's too bad that it is that way, but given how the law works, if you knowingly it's not even that. It's, you know, if there was an avenue of escape and you decided not to take it, then oftentimes you're going to be held accountable. So, you know, even though you could have stopped a shooting in a store or wherever, I don't know, but I just don't see things going well for people when you knowingly run to. Maybe you can, maybe you can't fix the situation, but I'm sorry, I'm not willing to go to prison for any amount of time because somebody decided they didn't want to protect themselves or theirs. Sure. You know, that's not part of my goal. Going to prison for somebody. It's just not.
Goal is to get out of there and save your own self and family, you know, which is
it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to come to terms with because there's this whole warrior ethos and ego-driven crap. But that's not going to comfort my wife and kids if I'm locked up in prison because I went and saved people, and then there was a prosecutor who just had a case, had a fly up their hind end about me. So
yeah, no, I can get that. And
sorry.
it's sad that our world came to that, because that is where we're at with things. Michigan has, I believe, I'm not a lawyer, so don't quote me on this, but I think Michigan has the Good Samaritan Act, that you can't get in trouble if you are if you perform CPR or life-saving.
That's different. That's different. We're not talking about using self-defense, using lethal force. We're not talking about force, but yes, we do have that. We're protected under that. If you're trying to help save life,
that's Good Samaritan Act coming. But I don't know. In my opinion, and for me, we say it over and over again. The situation is going to dictate my actions. I don't know how I would react in that situation. I don't want to say that I would react one way or another, because there's a big piece of me that's like, I'm going to go in and save lives. And
I know how you feel. I understand completely.
But then again, if it's me and my kids, no, I'm going to go find a cubby hole and hole up, and I'm going to keep my kids safe. I'm not going to go back into the fray, Right. And I just think it would be completely driven on what situation is presented to me and where I'm at. Like, for instance, my job, I have a lot of restrictions on what I can do. Like I can't, there's a lot of liability if I try to help somebody outside of the parameter of my job. Sure. So that changed my opinion a lot as well, of how I can deal with people. Like, performing medical treatment on somebody while I'm in uniform is almost an absolute no-go. We will get the liability is insane for that. We're performing medical treatments. It no longer is covered underneath the Good Samaritan Act. So it changes all sorts of things, and that really made me change my my thought process a little bit. And like I said, it's going to be, the situation is going to dictate how I react to it, and we're going to go from there. So
Yeah, I understand, and as this whole thing it's situation is a purpose driven deal. So yeah, I mean, I know how I feel about things now, but like you said, given the situation, things might change. Just like that car accident we ran into on our way up to Grand Rapids. I mean, looking back on it, that probably wasn't the safest thing for us to do. I mean, that's terrible road. Those were terrible conditions on the road. Maybe we weren't in a good enough place off the road where, who knows if we were, really safe there. Maybe that was a bad idea, but look, nothing we can do about it now, but we can learn from that.
We learn from it. Yep. Right. And we did learn from it. We learned a lot from that thing. We'll have to talk about that again thoroughly, because I think both of us learned a lot from that situation. That was pretty eye-opening on a few different things. But I think that my biggest thing, my takeaway for this is understanding and making sure that, please don't just go out and get gear because so-and-so said it was the only way to go. Get gear that you think is going to drive what you're doing, what your job is, what you do every day. If you, for instance, if you have children and you carry a bag or a purse, and you want a purse carry or bag carry, having children and bag carrying may not go well together. My kids get in my bags all the time, constantly, without my knowledge, and they know they're not supposed to, but they still do it because they're kids. Right. And so we got to think about what you're doing, not only for the safety level of things, but for the aspect of how is this going to react and work for me on a daily basis. So, for instance, my holster not being able to get to it when I'm sitting in a car doesn't work for me. You've got to find gear that works for you and your situation. Because if you cannot find that, then it's not going to work. You're not going to want to carry it. It's going to hinder you when you need it the most, and cause an issue and a problem. So trying to solve those a little bit is the way to go. And that's kind of what I'm trying to encourage you guys to do, is think out your day, think out what you do every day, and try to find gear that matches the best for your situation. If that makes sense.
It does. Well said. Well said.
Thank you.
All right. I got nothing else.
Yeah,
I kind of want. Yeah. No, I do want to share something, a book that I picked up. It's called Violence of Mind, Training and Preparation for Extreme Violence. This is by Vard Freeborn. I can't remember where, I had to go to his website to get this, and I feel like a jerk because now I don't. Violenceofmind.com. This is a fantastic book. This is a self-reflection book. This is, I've got, you know, what I talked about, like, hey, I'm sorry, you're on your own. This guy doesn't say, hey, you know, this is how you have to do things, but this is what's important to you. What are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to, you know, this is how violence works. This man is very well acquainted with violence. He grew up in an environment of violence that is unknown to most people. I mean, true violence, not like bar fights and fist fights, you know, in school. Extreme violence constantly. And he talks about his situation, how he ended up in prison. And when you hear, if you hear his story, there's just no way in the world this guy should have gone to prison. He might have done a few things wrong, but acted completely in self-defense. He was ambushed, and he ended up having to use a knife on somebody. The person did not die. He talks about how money drives court. And if you don't have enough money, you're going to have to take a plea deal. I think it's something like 95% of cases end in, you know, they end in pleas. So they're getting a guilty verdict out of you because if you don't have the money to go all the way through trial. So I'm about, I don't know, 50, 100 pages into this book, and it's fantastic. It's made me rethink some of the things that I used to think. It's made me question some of the things that I've been doing. So it's just a real eye-opener. And it helps you put aside the bull crap, the bravado, the ego, and look at what is really, really important. And why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you going down what path? So I cannot recommend that enough. It's Violence of Mind, Training and Preparation for Extreme Violence, Vard Freeborn. I'll see if we can get a link to his website.
Yeah, I'll try to get it in the show notes if I can.
All right. Well, that's all I got, man. That's all I got.
All right. We'll talk to you next time around. Check us out on iTunes. We just uploaded a bunch of new stuff on iTunes.
When are our episodes going to be? Did you say Mondays they're going to be coming out?
We're dropping them on Mondays. Monday at, actually, it may be better to say Tuesday because I think it's Monday at midnight. Okay. Is when I got them dropping. That may change, but that was what I was dropping them at for the last one. So. Okay. Cool. So we're caught all the way up to the Trek episode at this point.
Oh, good. Good.
About a month worth of drops, and then I'll start adding some more. So.
Awesome. Well, making everyday carry attainable for the everyday citizen. We are the Everyday Carry Podcast. Thank you for listening.